Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Thank you, Arunachala Ashrama. The DC area Satsang is honored to welcome you all to Bhagavan's 142nd Jayanthi celebrations. And we thank the organizers for coordinating this event today. We will like to begin our celebrations with an offering by Nitya Anand, singing the praise of Bhagavan through Punarvasu Vannam, written by Muruganar. Next, a reading will be given by Barbara Croissant, followed by a bhajan by Skanda Bhaska. We will then have Devika Srihari singing the glory of Lord Rama and Sahana Komanduri singing the praise of Lord Shiva. A short skit on Bhagavan's relationship and interactions with animals, written and directed by Shubharam, is presented by Priya, Arjit, Guhan, Sadhana, Skanda, Devika, Gopika and Neha. The illustrations shown during the skit were created by Sadhana, Devika and Gopika. Next will be a relay singing of Sadhu Om's composition Ramana Charita Kummi by P. Subramanian, Srihari, Girija Arakoni, Vidya Venkat and Nitya Anand. Gopika Srihari will then sing a bhajan on Bhagavan. We will then contemplate on Bhagavan's teachings through a reading by Uma P.S.
Sri Muruganar's composition, Punarvasu Vannam. கண்ணாலுனது கதிர்முகம் நாங்கள் காண பெற்று அண்ணால் கண்ணால் ஆம்பயனார்ந்தாம் என் பாராய் என்னா நின்றார் இதயத்தொளிரும் ரமண பேர் அண்ணாமலையான் புனர்வசு நன்னாளது வண்ணம் இதோ ஒரு கோடி இனர் போல் ஒளிரும் ரமண பேர் உதார குணாலன் உவப்பது நோக்கி உவப்பாரார் சுதாவடிவான ஸ்வரூபானந்த ஸ்வயம் ஜோதி அதாவெமையாண்டான் புனர்வசு நன்னாளது வண்ணம் குலவும் தொண்டர் கூடி தம்மிற் கொண்டாடும் தலைவன் பேச்சே தம் உணவாக தழைப்பாரால் இலகும் புகழால் என் திசை போர்த்த ரமணன் பேச்சு அழகில் கலிப்பாம் புனர்வசு நன்னாளது வண்ணம் பொருளின் வண்ணம் புகழின் வண்ணம் பொலிவண்ணம் தெருளின் வண்ணம் திருவின் வண்ணம் திகழ் வண்ணம் இருளின் வண்ணம் இளையாம் வண்ணம் ரமணன் கூர் அருளின் வண்ணம் புனர்வசு நன்னாளது வண்ணம் மீட்சியின் வண்ணம் மிஞ்சையின் வண்ணம் வீட்டின்ப காட்சியின் வண்ணம் கேள்வியின் வண்ணம் கடவுள்மா பூச்சியின் வண்ணம் பூரண வண்ணம் பொற்றாளுக்கு ஆட்சியின் வண்ணம் புனர்வசு நன்னாளது வண்ணம் தேர்கலையெல்லாம் தேரினும் சிந்தை தெளியாது நீர்க்கண ஞான நிலை பெற வெட்ட நெஞ்சத்தீர் சார்கதி காட்டும் சதா சிவமூர்த்தி ஜெயந்தி சீர் மார்கழி மாத புனர்வசு நன்னாளது வண்ணம் ஆதரம் மிக்க அடியர் அகக்கார் அகன்றோட மூதரையாலே முகவுரை ஓதி மோனம் சேர் போதனையால் அனுபூதி புணர்க்கும் புலவோன் ஞான ஆதவமெய்யன் புனர்வசு நன்னாளது வண்ணம் விதானம் கட்டி தொங்கல் விட்டு வினோதம் பதாகை தூக்கி பல் சிறப்பு பாரிப்பார் எதாகிலும் ஓர்கற்றேவல் இயற்ற பெறாமோ என்று அனே நினைவாவர் புனர்வசு நன்னாளது வண்ணம் மாதவர் வேதியர் மந்திரம் ஓதி வழுத்துவார் கோதையர் தாம் தம் கொழுனருடம் பின் புழுகுவார் பேதையரானோர் மேதையராக பிறங்குவார் ஆதரம் நாம் செய் புனர்வசு நன்னாளது வண்ணம் தாழிசை வண்ணம் சந்த விருத்தம் சாற்றுவார் ஏழிசைவான யாழொடு வீணையில் ஏற்றுவார் தோழன் தோகைய பூப்பளி பொற்சுணம் தூவுவார் வாழி ரமணன் புனர்வசு நன்னாளது வண்ணம் மோகமொழிக்கும் முனிவன் திருவாய் மொழிவாழி சோகமகற்றும் சுத்தாதுவித சுடர்வாழி ஏகஸ்வரூப ரமணன் கருணை இயல்வாழி காகமுறவு கலந்தால் போழும் கணம் வாழி
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Surinagama Letters from Sri Ramanashramam, 24th February 1947. Yesterday, a lady devotee showed Bhagavan her notebook in which she had copied out the 5 verses of Ekatma Panchakam. Bhagavan saw in that notebook 2 verses composed by him for his devotees when they first started celebrating his birthday, and told us the following incident. On one of my birthdays, while I was in Virupaksha cave, probably in 1912, those around me insisted on cooking food and eating it there as a celebration of the occasion. I tried to dissuade them, but they rebelled, saying, "What harm does it do to Swamiji if we cook our food and eat it here?" I therefore left it at that. Immediately after that, they purchased some vessels. Those vessels are still here. What began as a small function has resulted in all this paraphernalia and pomp. Everything must take its own course and will not stop at our request. I told them at great length, but they did not listen. When the cooking and eating were over, Ishwara Swami, who used to be with me in those days, said, "Swamiji, this is your birthday. Please compose 2 verses, and I too will compose 2. It was then that I composed these 2 verses, which I find in the notebook here. They run as follows. 1. You who intend to celebrate the birthday, first ascertain to whence you were born. The day that we attain a place in that everlasting life which is beyond the reach of births and deaths is our real birthday. 2. Even on these birthdays that occur once a year, we ought to lament that we have got this body and fallen into this world. Instead, we celebrate the event with a feast. To rejoice over it is like decorating a corpse. Wisdom consists in realizing the self and in getting absorbed therein." Bhagavan continued, "This is the purport of those verses. It appears that it is a custom amongst a certain section of people in Malabar to weep when a child is born in the house and celebrate a death with pomp. Really, one should lament having left one's real state
and taken birth again in this world and not celebrated as a festive occasion. 25th February 1947. This morning, a Gujarati lady arrived from Bombay with her husband and children. She was middle-aged, and from her bearing she appeared to be a cultured lady. The husband wore khadar and appeared to be a congressman. They seemed to be respectable people by the way they conducted themselves. They all gathered in the hall by about 10 a.m. after finishing their bath, etc. From their attitude, it could be seen that they intended to ask some questions. Within 15 minutes or so, they began asking as follows. Lady: Bhagavan, how can one attain the self? Bhagavan: why should you attain the self? Lady: for Shanti, peace. Bhagavan: so, is that it? Then there is what is called peace, is there? Lady: yes, there is. Bhagavan: all right. And you know that you should attain it. But how do you know? To know that, you must have experienced it at some time or other. It is only when one knows that sugar cane is sweet that one wishes to have some. Similarly, you must have experienced peace. You experience it now and then. Otherwise, why this longing for peace? In fact, we find every human being is longing similarly for peace. Peace of some kind. It is therefore obvious that peace is the real thing, the reality. Call it Shanti, soul, or Paramatma, or self, whatever you like. We all want it, don't we? Lady: yes, but how to attain it? Bhagavan: what you have got is Shanti itself. What can I say if someone asks for something which he has already got? If it is anything to be brought from somewhere, effort is required. The mind with all its activities has come between you and yourself. What you have to do now is to get rid of that. According to Swami Chinmayananda, Chapter 15 is perhaps one of the most pregnant and significant sections in the entire Ashtavakra Gita. The one ultimate reality, the self, is declared here in unequivocal words. The one self in all existence, and all existence in the one self. The supreme wisdom, God, indicated in the scriptures by the term that, has no birth, no action, no ego. Such a concept of the absolute implicitly implies in itself the doctrine of non-origination, ajatavada. All that falls under the cause-effect system of the mind is nothing but the self misapprehended as the illusory world of names and forms. Ashtavakra lovingly insists, have faith, my son, have faith, shraddhasva, shraddhasva, in this grand, majestic truth. The self is not only pure consciousness, which expresses uniformly in all other planes of consciousness, but is also something worshipful, supremely to be revered as God, Bhagavan. Verse 1. The man who is pure of heart is bound to find himself in whatever way he is taught. A worldly man seeks all his life, but is still bewildered. 2. Detached from the senses, you are free. Attached, you are bound. When this is understood, you may live as you please. 3. When this is understood, the man who is bright and busy and full of fine words falls silent. He does nothing. He is still. No wonder those who wish to enjoy the world shun this understanding. 4. You are not your body. Your body is not you. You are not the doer. You are not the enjoyer. You are pure awareness, the witness of all things. You are without expectation. free. Wherever you go, be happy. 5. Desire and aversion are of the mind. The mind is never yours. You are free of its turmoil. You are awareness itself, never changing. Wherever you go, be happy. 6. For see, the self is in all beings, and all beings are in the self. Know you are free. Free of I, free of mine, be happy. 7. In you the worlds arise like waves in the sea. It is true, you are awareness itself. So free yourself from the fever of the world. 8. Have faith, my child, have faith. Do not be bewildered. For you are beyond all things, the heart of all knowing. You are the self. You are God. 9. The body is confined by its natural properties. It comes, it lingers a while, it goes. But the self neither comes nor goes. So why grieve for the body? 10. If the body lasted till the end of time or vanished today, what would you win or lose? You are pure awareness. 11. You are the endless sea in whom all the worlds like waves naturally rise and fall. You have nothing to win, nothing to lose. 12. Child, you are pure awareness, nothing less. You and the world are one. So who are you to think you can hold on to it or let it go? How could you? 13. You are the clear space of awareness, pure and still, in whom there is no birth, no activity, no I. You are one and the same. You cannot change or die. 14. You are in whatever you see, you alone. Just as bracelets and bangles and dancing anklets are all of the same gold. 15. I am not this, I am he. Give up such distinctions. Know that everything is the self. Rid yourself of all purpose and be happy. The world only arises from ignorance. You alone are real. There is no one, not even God, separate from yourself. 17. You are pure awareness. The world is an illusion, nothing more. When you understand this fully, desire falls away. You find peace. For indeed, there is nothing. 18. In the ocean of being, there is only one. There was and there will be only one. You are already fulfilled. How can you be bound or free? Wherever you go, be happy. 19. Never upset your mind with yes and no. Be quiet. You are awareness itself. Live in the happiness of your own nature, which is happiness itself. 20. What is the use of thinking? Once and for all, give up meditation. Hold nothing in your mind. You are the self, and you are free. 5 verses on the self. These are the last verses composed by Bhagavan. They were written at the instance of a devotee, Surinagama, the author of letters from Sri Ramanashramam. He wrote them first in Telugu, but to a Tamil metrical form called Venba, and then translated them into Tamil. Since there was already a composition of Shankaracharya called the Atma Panchakam, Bhagavan decided to call his composition Ekatma Panchakam. 1. When forgetting the self, one thinks that the body is oneself and goes through innumerable births, and in the end remembers and becomes the self, know this is only like a waking from a dream wherein one has wandered over all the world. 2. One ever is the self. To ask oneself, who and whereabouts am I, is like the drunken man's inquiring, who am I and where am I? 3. The body is within the self, and yet one thinks one is inside the inert body, like some spectator who supposes that the screen on which the picture is thrown is within the picture. 4. Does an ornament of gold exist apart from the gold? Can the body exist apart from the self? The ignorant one thinks, I am the body. The enlightened knows, I am the self. 5. The self alone, the sole reality, exists forever. If of yore the first of teachers revealed it through unbroken silence, say, who can reveal it in spoken words? Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Sadanandaya Namo Ramana. Sadanandaya Namo Ramana. Gambiraya Namo Ramana. Gambiraya Namo Ramana. Paripurnaya Namo Ramana. Paripurnaya Namo Ramana. Abhaya Pradaya Namo Ramana. Abhaya Pradaya Namo Ramana. Dayarnavaya Namo Ramana. Dayarnavaya Namo Ramana. Suprasannaya Namo Ramana. Suprasannaya Namo Ramana. Sonachalaya Namo Ramana. Sonachalaya Namo Ramana. Abhaya Pradaya Namo Ramana. Abhaya Pradaya Namo Ramana. Karunakaraya Namo Ramana. Karunakaraya Namo Ramana. Golakshmi Priyaya Namo Ramana. Golakshmi Priyaya Namo Ramana. Devatamaya Namo Ramana. Devatamaya Namo Ramana. Abhaya Pradaya Namo Ramana. Abhaya Pradaya Namo Ramana. Namo Ramana. Namo Ramana. Namo Ramana. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Rama 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 Sita Ramana Papaharana. Rama 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 Sita Ramana Papaharana. Chantaraka Yundu Tevari Chelimo Nindu Kalimo. Chantaraga Yundu Tevari Chelimo Nindu Kalimo. Rama 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 Sita రామ 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 సీత రమణ పాపహరణ మనమే చేమ నూచు ఇంత మడమ కామదమ మనమే చేమ నూచు ఇంత మడమ కామదమ రామ 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 సీత రమణ పాపహరణ రామ 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 సీత రమణ పాపహరణ నను వినగతేవరనుచు నగవో లేక బిగువో నను వినగతి ఎవరనుచు నగవో లేక బిగువో రామ 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 సీత రమణ పాపహరణ రామ 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 సీత రమణ పాపహరణ కరుణ జోతు ననుచు పలుకు కరువ బ్రోవ బరువ కరుణ జోతు ననుచు పలుకు కరువ బ్రోవ బరువ రామ 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 సీత రమణ పాపహరణ రామ 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 సీత రమణ పాపహరణ వసముఖాతు త్యాగరాజ వరద కుంద సురద వసముఖాతు త్యాగరాజ వరద కుంద సురద రామ 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 సీత రమణ పాపహరణ రామ 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 సీత రమణ పాపహరణ రమణ పాపహరణ రమణ పాపహరణ ఓం నమో భగవతే శ్రీరమణాయ
ఓం నమో భగవతే శ్రీరమణాయ పరాత్ పరా పరమేశ్వర 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 పార్వతీపతే హర పశుపతే పరాత్ పరా పరమేశ్వర సురా 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 తురుం పావన సురా సురా తురుం పావన సురా సురా తురుం పావన సురా సురా తురుం పావన సుందర చరణ రవింద ఆనంద పరాత్ పరా పరమేశ్వర పరాత్ పరా పరమేశ్వర అరి అయనం కానా అరియ జ్యోతి అరి అయనం కానా பரமநாடி புறமிழித்த முக்கு புறமிழித்த முக்கு கரும்பேந்த புறமிழித்த முக்கன் கரும்பேந்தன் புறமிழித்த முக்கன் கரும்பேந்த புறமிழித்த முக்கன் கரும்பேந்தன் புண்ணியமூர்த்தி சுப்பிரமணியன் தந்தேய புண்ணியமூர்த்தி சுப்பிரமணியன் தந்தேய பராத்பரா பரமேஸ்வரா பார்வதிபதே ஹர பசுபதே பராத்பரா பரமேஸ்வரா. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. A devotee asked a Mahatma, Swami, how do we know a jnani? The Mahatma answered, one who has a balanced, tranquil mind in any kind of situation, one who has universal vision of equality towards all beings, one who has love, care, compassion for all beings, irrespective of whether it's a plant, animal, bird, insect, or human being. He is a jnani. If anyone lived up to this ideal completely both in letter and spirit, it was Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. In Sri Ramanashram, devotees and the ashram animals sat alike on the same floor before the Maharishi and were given equal treatment by Bhagavan. There was no difference in the way that Sri Ramana Maharshi treated people, animals, or plants. It is not really a wonder that Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, being the self in all, was friendly to all animals, and that all animals were peaceful and calm in his presence. His special spiritual relationship with the divine cow Lakshmi is well known and in the skit. We will relate incidents to show how Ramana Maharshi, a true enlightened sage, had a deep love and compassion not just for humans but for animals as well.
It is beautiful to see how Bhagavan shows his love towards animals in simple ways.
What is there to feel surprised? When Swami was staying in the Virupaksha cave and the Kandashramam, many dogs, cows, squirrels, monkeys, cats, and other animals came to him daily and behaved freely with Bhagavan. It was common to see Bhagavan looking through the window and say, "Lakshmi has come, give her food at once." A new person to the ashram would think that a little girl would step in and take the food, but a cow named Lakshmi would slowly step in and take the food. When the Maharishi inquired, "Have the boys been given their food?" he would refer to the ashram dogs. When he said, "Roja, come here, my boy," a sweet little cat would come and sit on the lap of the Maharishi. There wasn't a single occasion where the Bhagavan referred to the pets as it or treated it less than a human being.
At Skandasharam, a peacock would follow Bhagavan everywhere. One day, a huge black cobra appeared and the peacock attacked it fiercely. The cobra spread its hood and the two were ready for a fight. Then Bhagavan came near the cobra and said, "Why did you come here? The peacock will kill you. You better go away at once." The cobra lowered its hood and slithered away.
You said the cobra and peacock were gonna fight, but they're just natural enemies. I don't understand how the cobra left.
Bhagavan knew the languages of all animals and birds. Not only was he able to understand their language, but he spoke to them in a language which they understood. The cobra understood what Bhagavan said and went away without fighting.
Today, let us focus on Bhagavan's companions, the monkeys. When Bhagavan was living in Virupaksha cave, a monkey clan regularly visited him and would sit under a big shady tree in front of the cave. They groomed one another for long hours in front of him. At other times, they'll sit before him without moving, silently absorbed as though they were in deep meditation. Bhagavan would often have light-hearted interactions with his beloved companions, the monkeys, and he would even poke fun at them at times. Once there was a clan of monkeys sitting silently and suddenly in front of Bhagavan as if they were meditating. Bhagavan was thoroughly enjoying the spectacle and admired their concentration. However, he could not miss the opportunity of teasing them. Bhagavan addressed the monkeys. "Hey, are you sitting before me in samadhi? Very well done. But let me see how long you will be able to sit like this." Just as he spoke, a monkey began to fidget. He opened his eyes, unable to sit still any longer. Bhagavan looked at him and said, "You fellow, where are you going? What kingdom have you to conquer? Sit quietly, let me see." At Bhagavan's words, the monkey began quiet and completely peaceful. He sat, absorbed again, without even the slightest movement.
We humans have a tendency to look down on monkeys, but Bhagavan has shown such great love and compassion towards them. Even the monkeys respected and accepted him as one of their own.
Yes, that is true. There is an incident involving the monkeys that happened when Bhagavan and his devotees went for Giri Pradakshina. It was a hot summer day, and while they were going round the hill, the devotees noticed that a troop of monkeys was following them, jumping from one tree to another. At around 1 p.m., Bhagavan and his devotees reached the Pachayamman Koil. The sun was intensely hot, and the devotees were quite hungry and thirsty. Although there was no water nearby, Bhagavan, noticing the plight of his devotees, decided that they should stop, take rest for a while. Suddenly, the monkeys climbed a nearby Jambulina tree, which had ripe purple fruits. The monkeys shook the branches and the fruits rained down. Then the monkeys came down the tree, but did not touch a single fruit. The devotees realized that the fruits were meant for them. They picked up the offering and ate them with great relish and appeased their hunger. At the same time, a group of women came up with earthen jars of water to quench their thirst.
It is wonderful to see how monkeys helping Bhagavan's party without Bhagavan's instructions. Let me tell you about an incident where Bhagavan pacified an entire clan of monkeys. In 1908, when the town was afflicted with plague, Bhagavan was staying in Pachayaman temple. There were many tamarind trees in the surrounding area. The municipality gave the right to collect the tamarind to the highest bidder. And during the period of Bhagavan's residence, the rights belonged to a local Muslim. In order to protect his interests, the Muslim contractor had to guard the trees from the monkeys, and he used to drive them away by firing stones at them from a sling. As he only wanted to scare them away, he took care to see that his stones were not thrown hard enough to injure the monkeys. Unfortunately, one stone hit a monkey on its head, and it died immediately. The rest of the tribe gathered up the dead body, and screeching with both anger and sorrow, took the body to Bhagavan. Their screeches grew louder in Bhagavan's presence. Their sorrow caused tears to trickle down Bhagavan's face. His presence finally calmed the monkeys down, and when they were quiet, he turned to them and said, "For everyone that is born, death is inevitable. He at whose hands this monkey died will certainly meet death one day, so there is no need to grieve." The monkeys seemed pacified by these words, and they went away, carrying the corpse with them.
Bhagavan moved closely with the monkeys, understood their cries, and and knew the life story of most of them. He would tell visitors that the monkeys recognized him as one of their community, and Bhagavan used to solve their disputes.
In the days just prior to Bhagavan moving from the Virupaksha cave to the Skandashramam, there was a monkey in the monkey troop near Virupaksha cave. There was a young monkey in the troop who had started to show some promise and was gaining popularity within the tribe. The leader of the troop became envious and was very much displeased. Out of jealousy, he attacked the young monkey, making him fall from a high tree. The fall badly injured a leg. The leader and the other monkeys abandoned him to his fate near Virupaksha cave. Barely conscious, the monkey eventually limped into Virupaksha cave. The all-compassionate Bhagavan bandaged his leg and nursed him back to health. In due course, the injuries were healed, but he was left permanently crippled. Bhagavan named him Nondi Payan, the little hobbler. He was called Nondi as a pet name as he had to limp while walking or running. Nondi would always sit on Bhagavan's lap or next to him while he ate. He would never waste food offered to him. He was a scrupulously clean eater. He followed Bhagavan wherever he went, limping along. Even Bhagavan told him not to come follow him. He would follow with great effort. He developed a fondness for Bhagavan and was devoted to him. He looked up to him as his master. Under Bhagavan's loving care, Nondi's leg improved, and he regained his strength. Nondi became a friend not only to Bhagavan but also to other ashramites. They appreciated his charming personality. But whatever has a beginning has an end too. Nothing is eternal except the self. 5 days later, the monkeys from Nondi's former troop came to Virupaksha cave. The ashramites saw them coming and were scared that they might hurt Bhagavan. Even Mother Alagamal felt the same and told Bhagavan to leave Nondi. But Bhagavan assured that nothing would happen. The monkeys would not hurt anybody in the Virupaksha cave. As soon as Nondi saw his troop members, he went and climbed onto Bhagavan's lap. One of the members of the troop came near them and looked at Nondi's bandaged legs. Bhagavan told the monkey that he had applied medicine and bandage to cure the injured leg. The monkeys were sorry that they had hurt Nondi so badly. They gave a friendly growl, and one of them came and pulled Nondi back, asking him to rejoin the troop. But Nondi did not want to leave Bhagavan. He looked at Bhagavan. Bhagavan told Nondi, "Your troop has come to reclaim you. Go with them like a good boy. Do not forget us when you become king." So saying, Bhagavan patted Nondi and sent him back with his relatives. Like other animals, the monkeys too have love and attachment to one another. Nondi used to come to see Bhagavan even after Bhagavan and the others moved to Skandashramam. He used to come with his troop and be with Bhagavan for some time. When Alagamal once gave Nondi food in a separate plate, he refused to eat, preferring to share with Bhagavan on his plate, helping himself by taking from the plate. Nondi, after eating, would pick up the fallen grains off from the floor and made it neat. Bhagavan used to appreciate Nondi's smartness.
Later, Bhagavan used to speak about Nandi. He was a clean eater, and when a leaflet of rice sat before him, he would not spill any. If he ever did, he would pick it up and eat it.
One day, Bhagavan and his party had left Skandasramam for Giri Pradakshina, leaving the ashramam in charge of one or two who stayed behind. During Bhagavan's absence, Nondi and a host of other monkeys came and went on a rampage in the garden, then went on to break the twigs and branches on the trees at Skandasramam. When Bhagavan returned, he saw the destruction and wondered at the monkeys' behavior. The next day, the monkeys again came, and Nondi got up to the highest tree, reached its highest point, and began to shake the branch as he cried out loudly. Bhagavan knew that this was a privilege enjoyed only by the monkey chief. After 2 or 3 minutes, Nondi came down, hopped onto Bhagavan's lap, and embraced him. Bhagavan stroked Nondi's head. There were nearly 100 monkeys assembled. In their excitement, the monkeys climbed the trees just as Nondi had done and began to jump wildly. Suddenly, a large old monkey approached Bhagavan and Nondi and knelt before them. It was the old king surrendering to Nondi. When Bhagavan offered food as usual to the lame one, he would not take it, but led the man offering it to where 3 other monkeys were sitting, and there he shared his food with them. The 3 monkeys were the queens of the deposed king, who were now the lame one's queens according to their custom and usage. Then Bhagavan knew that Nondi had become king, that the previous day they all came to have his coronation in Bhagavan's presence, and finding Bhagavan absent, expressed their disappointment and chagrin by breaking branches, etc. Nondi had once been banished, rejected, and left for dead by his own clan, unable even to walk. But with Bhagavan's grace, he grew up and became a great warrior and even the king of his clan.
Just as human beings have their own customs and rules, the monkeys too have them. One day, a monkey king came to Skandashramam. He was the king of a large tribe. Bhagavan had just sat down to have his meal, and Mother Aragammal was serving food. The monkey king came and sat next to Bhagavan. Before eating, Bhagavan gave the first mouthful to the monkey king. But instead of eating, the monkey king growled and gave Bhagavan a slap on the cheek. Bhagavan asked the monkey, "Why are you angry? I fed you first, didn't I?" But even as he was saying this, Bhagavan suddenly realized his mistake. He then asked that the food be served in a separate leaf. The monkey king was pleased. He ate the food with relish and left happily after finishing his meal. Afterwards, Bhagavan explained to the devotees that this monkey king had to be treated in accordance with his royal status. Since he had not been given a separate leaf, he was angry with Bhagavan and slapped him.
Bhagavan observed that the monkeys had their own code of conduct, way of life, attitudes, and their pranks too. Bhagavan was Sarvajana, the omniscient, the all-knower. All creatures in turn understood his language, gestures, and glances. They obeyed him accordingly. That was how pleasant companionship and friendship developed between Bhagavan and the animals. The relationship was not ordinary, there was divinity in it.
On the last day, before Bhagavan left his physical body, the doctors thought the pain from the sarcoma wound must be terrible. But still, Bhagavan was so concerned about the animals that when 2 peacocks screeched, he asked whether they had received their food. The pathetic cry of the white peacock sitting on the roof of where Bhagavan was laying down would melt anybody's heart. Our Bhagavan was the dearest friend of all beings. We are fortunate to have Bhagavan as our inner guru and to be blessed by him. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Sri Sadhuom Swamigal's composition, Ramana Charita Kummi. கும்மியடி அருட்கும்மியடி ஒன்றாய் கூடி குரு பத கும்மியடி அம்மையடி நமக்கப்பனடி ரமணாய நமோயன கும்மியடி கும்மியடி அருட்கும்மியடி ஒன்றாய் கூடி குரு பத கும்மியடி அம்மையடி நமக்கப்பனடி ரமணாய நமோ என கும்மியடி. சாந்த சமுத்திர ரமணனடி அவதார சரிதை இசை போமடி. காந்த அருள்வலை கண்ணனடி கலிகால துதித்த கடவுளடி. வேதியர் சுந்தரர் மைந்தனடி பெயர் வெங்கடராமன் என்றோதிடடி. ஆதி திருச்சுழியப்பதியில் அழகம்மை வயிற்றில் உதித்தாரடி. சின்னஞ்சிறிய பிராயத்திலே குருதேவனின் சிந்தையின் ஆழத்திலே மன்னருணாச்சலம் என்பதுவே மிக மாண்பெனும் எண்ணம் இருந்ததடி. அன்று மதுரையில் கற்றானடி 16 பிராயம் உற்றானடி. பின்பொரு நாளில் திடீரெனவே சாவின் பீதி எழுந்திட பெற்றானடி. பின்பொரு நாளில் திடீரெனவே சாவின் பீதி எழுந்திட பெற்றானடி.
கும்மியடி அருட்கும்மியடி ஒன்றாய் கூடி குருபத கும்மியடி. அம்மையடி நமக்கப்பனடி ரமணாய நமோ என கும்மியடி. சாவின் ரகசியம் யாதனவே அதை தானே ஆராய துணிந்தானடி. சாவது உடம்பன அப்படியே உடல் சாய்த்து மரணத்தை ஆய்ந்தானடி. நாடியும் மூச்சும் அடங்கிடவே உள்ளே நான் யாரென தேடி கண்டானடி. கூடிய ஆன்ம குகையினிலே இனி கூற்றனில்லா வாழ்வு கொண்டானடி. உள்ளது நான் அருணாச்சலமே என்னும் உண்மை கண்டெல்லாம் மறந்தானடி. கல்லாமல் உள்ளம் கவர்ந்தருணாச்சலம் காதலளித்தே நிறைந்தானடி. ஏட்டு படிப்பினில் என்ன சுகம் என்றே ஏகான்ம நிஷ்டையில் ஆழ்ந்தானடி. வீட்டில் இருப்பது வீண் எனவே கண்டு விண்ணருணாச்சலம் வந்தானடி. வீட்டில் இருப்பது வீண் எனவே கண்டு விண்ணருணாச்சலம் வந்தானடி.
கும்மியடி அருட்கும்மியடி ஒன்றாய் கூடி குருபத கும்மியடி. அம்மையடி நமக்கப்பனடி ரமணாய நமோ என கும்மியடி. எந்தையை தேடி கிளம்பி விட்டேன் என்று எழுதி வைத்தான் பிரிவாற்றானடி. தந்தையிடம் தன்னை ஒப்புவித்தே சிவ சாம்ராஜ்ய செங்கோலை ஏற்றானடி. ஊனுடல் யாவும் மறந்தானடி. நிஷ்டை ஊன்றி உலகை துறந்தானடி. ஆன்ம சமாதியில் ஆழ்ந்தானடி. பாதாள லிங்கத்தில் அமர்ந்தானடி. தீவிட பூச்சிகள் தின்றதடி. இரத்தம் சீழும் உடலில் வடிந்ததடி. சாவை கடந்தவன் அல்லவோடி. இவை சற்றும் தெரியாதிருந்தானடி. பற்பல நாள் குரு மூர்த்தத்திலும் பின் பவளக்குன்று விருபாட்சியிலும் அற்புதமோன அகண்ட சமாதியில் ஐயனழுந்தியிருந்தானடி. அற்புதமோன அகண்ட சமாதியில் ஐயனழுந்தியிருந்தானடி.
கும்மியடி அருட்கும்மியடி ஒன்றாய் கூடி குருபத கும்மியடி அம்மையடி நமக்கப்பனடி ரமணாய நமோ என கும்மியடி தானே அனைத்தும் என தெளிந்தே குரு தட்சிணாமூர்த்தம் விளங்கிற்றடி வானும் புவியும் பகவான் ரமண மகரிஷி என்றே வணங்கிற்றடி அன்னை அழகம்மை தம்பியரும் ரமணப்பனடிக்கே அடைந்தாரடி தன்னை அடைந்த ஜகமனைத்தும் காக்கும் சுவாமி அனைவர்க்கும் சொந்தமடி கந்தாசிரமத்தில் இருந்தாரடி அன்னை கைவல்யம் எய்த புரிந்தாரடி தன் தாயை பாலி தடாகத்தருகே சமாதி செய்தாங்கே அமர்ந்தாரடி நானிலத்துக்கெல்லாம் யாத்திரை தலைமை ரமணாசிரமம் எழுந்ததடி நான் எனும் ஆணவம் போக்குதடி ஆன்ம ஞான வடிவமாய் ஆக்குதடி நான் எனும் ஆணவம் போக்குதடி ஆன்ம ஞான வடிவமாய் ஆக்குதடி
கும்மியடி அருட்கும்மியடி ஒன்றாய் கூடி குருபத கும்மியடி அம்மையடி நமக்கப்பனடி ரமணாய நமோ என கும்மியடி தன்னை அறிவதே மார்க்கமடி வேறு சாஸ்திர சங்கையை நீக்கிடடி முன்னை பரம்பொருள் நீதானடி என்று முக்தி கனியாய் அளித்தாரடி உள்ளது 40 உபதேச சாரமும் ஓத அக்ஷரமணமாலையுமே தெள்ளு தமிழில் அளித்தாரடி அதை சிந்திப்பதால் மோட்சம் சித்தியடி உலகின் பாவப்பினி தீர்த்தாரடி அதை உடலின் இடக்கையில் ஏற்றாரடி இலகும் நிர்வாண பொழுதினிலே விண்ணில் எந்த எஞ்சோதி எழுந்ததடி என்றும் இதயத்தில் இருப்பாரடி நான் யார் என்றால் அவரே ஸ்புரிப்பாரடி அன்றும் இன்றும் என்றும் ஆண்டவனே நமதான்ம சுகமாய் ரமிப்பாரடி அன்றும் இன்றும் என்றும் ஆண்டவனே நமதான்ம சுகமாய் ரமிப்பாரடி கும்மியடி அருட்கும்மியடி ஒன்றாய் கூடி குருபத கும்மியடி அம்மையடி நமக்கப்பனடி ரமணாய நமோ என கும்மியடி ரமணாய நமோ என கும்மியடி ரமணாய நமோ என கும்மியடி
ஸ்ரீரமணா ஸ்ரீரமணா சித்தஜனபூஷண ஸ்ரீரமணா பிரபு ரமணா பிரபு ரமணா பசீத கீர்த்தே பிரபு ரமணா பிரசன்னமூர்த்தே பிரபு ரமணா பிரபோதஸ்பூர்த்தே பிரபு ரமணா சிவகுருநாத ஸ்ரீரமணா குரு ரமணா குரு ரமணா குஹஸ்வரூப குரு ரமணா நமோ ரமணா நமோ ரமணா நத ஜனகதிபத நமோ ரமணா நவ நவ ಯೌವನ நமோ ரமணா ನಯನ ವಿಶಾಲ ನಮೋ ರಮಣಾ ಶಿವ ಗುರುನಾಥ ಶ್ರೀರಮಣ Shri Ramana, Shri Ramana, Shita Jana Bhushana, Shri Ramana, Prabhu Ramana, Prabhu Ramana, Pasida Kirte, Prabhu Ramana, Prasanna Murte, Prabhu Ramana, Prabodha Supte, Prabhu Ramana, Shiva Guru Nada, Shri Ramana, Guru Ramana, Guru Ramana, Guha Swarupa, Guru Ramana, Namo Ramana, Namo Ramana, Nata Jana Gadipada, Namo Ramana, Nava Nava Yauvana, Namo Ramana, Nayana Vishala, Namo Ramana, Shiva Guru Nata, Shri Ramana, Shiva Guru Nata, Shri Ramana. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
अपार सच्चित् सुखवारी राशे यस्योर्मि मात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि. Namaste. A Jnani is an embodiment of grace because he reveals the path that will liberate us. Grace is the eternal spring that guides us to live in the world not bound by events, even though we experience it. Today, we celebrate the birth of Bhagavan Ramana. Since he is a destroyer of ignorance, he is our Guru. He is the embodiment of the self, Akhanda Sambhida Karaya. He is the great illuminator of grace, Mahaujas. When a visitor asked Bhagavan to recommend a biography on himself, he suggested reading Vishwanatha Swami's Ashtotram. Let us look at Sri Bhagavan using selected phrases from it. Ramana Bhagavan was born in Tiruchuri, Bhuminatha Stalothithaya, in 1879 to mother Aragamma and father Sundaram Iyer. Sundaram Iyer, whose penance yielded the fruit that was Bhagavan, Sundararya Tapapalaya. He was born for a specific reason, Karanodbhavaya, which is for the welfare of the world, Jagat Hitavataraya. The flash of light seen by the blind midwife during his birth foretold that the child was no ordinary one. As a child, Venkataraman, as he was named, was strong, healthy, and loved playing sports. The team he played always won. He was called the one with the golden arm, Swarna Hastakaya. His lovable nature captivated everyone, Kamaniya Sucharitraya. He heard the word Arunachala enunciated for the first time by a relative visiting his father's house. This transformed him. Subsequent to this, a major event took place in Madurai, which was the sudden fear that he was about to die. This initiated an inquiry into his self, which culminated in a flash of realization of his true nature. Srimad Dwadashanta Mahasthale Labdha Vidyodayaya. He realized he was not this perishable body. Mahashakti Nipatena Prabuddhaya. This experience heightened the feeling of separation, and he longed to be united with Arunachala, his father, Indu Maulina Pitramate. He went searching for his father, Pitrupadan Veshine. He took some money from home, used it to buy the train fare to journey to Tiruvannamalai, all orchestrated by him. Pituradeshata Shona Shaila Praptaya. Bhagavan has said that he was like a dry leaf that was blown by the wind with no volition of his own. Physical distress of separation was assuaged after embracing the Arunachala Lingam inside the temple. In the first verse of Arunachala Ashtakam, Bhagavan says, I didn't know that Tiruvannamalai was Arunachala. It bewildered my mind and pulled me to it. And when I went near it, I saw it there shining, a motionless mountain. அறிவறிகிரியன அமர்த்தரும் அம்மா அதிசயம் இதன் செயல் அறிவறிதார்க்கு அறிவறு சிறுவயதது முதல் அருணாச்சலம் மிக பெரிதென அறிவினல் இலங்க அருகிலன் அதன் பொருள் அது திருவண்ணாமலையென ஒருவரால் அறிவுறப் பெற்று அறிவினை மருளுறுத்து அருகினில் ஈர்க்க அருகுரும் அமயம் இது அச்சலமா கண்டேன். After meeting his father Arunachala, he was drawn within to the self that was Arunachala. Lost in him, sitting in the 1,000-pillared mandapam within the Arunachaleshwara temple, vagrants would torment him. He settled in the Patala Lingam where he was not disturbed. It was dark and dingy, completely abandoned, frequented by rodents and other creatures. Naisargika Mahatapase. At this time, he felt no need for food or sleep for days and months, as there was utter disregard for the body. He was totally immersed in the self. Tapakshapita Sarvangaya. Seeing children throwing things into the dark pit, that was the Patala Lingam at the time, Sheshadri Swamigal saw the young Bhagavan sitting like a statue in the dark. He was completely lost to the world, Mahayogin. Realizing the great state he was in, he advised one Venkatesa Mudali to investigate, and the amazed man, with the help of a few others, brought out the young Bhagavan. Small animals and pests had fed upon his body, and he was stuck to the earth there with his own pus and blood that was oozing from his wounds. Tapomayaya. He was blissfully unaware, immersed in the self. Purnaya. They cleaned him up carefully and had to physically pry open his mouth to get some nourishment inside. Many days, the food would remain there till the next morning, since Bhagavan was oblivious of his body and the food had not been eaten or swallowed. Bhagavan had said that he had moved all over the temple from one place to another, probably to avoid being disturbed. But this happened without his knowledge, still completely immersed in the self. He was the changeless, birthless, deathless spirit that was infinite and whose nature was knowledge and bliss. Churnita kila vibramaya, Veda Vedanta Tattvajnaya, Swaraje, Maharshe, Bhagavate, Bhuma Vidya Visharadaya. This was a deep, immutable, solid experience which ever remained with him. Satyadrishe, Satyaya, Atma Ramaya. During this time, Bhagavan's radiance manifested physically through his bright, effulgent eyes. Uddiptanayanaya, like lotuses in full bloom. Pullambuja Vilochanaya, cool moonbeam smile in the beautiful face. Chandrika Sitahasa, Sri Mandita, Anana Mandalaya. His beauty and glory attracted many devotees. Reading about Bhagavan and his interactions with people around him, we are struck by his utter simplicity, his self-effacement and benevolence. Whether it was his own family, visitors, animals, friends, or not friends, everyone was treated with the same courtesy and affection. Samadrishe Suprasannaya. He abhorred special treatment. Anyone found guilty of that would see a very stern Bhagavan, Gambhiraya. Bhagavan was always ready to work, whether in the kitchen or elsewhere. No work was too small for him. Mahotsahaya. He was very frugal. he always found ways to use things that were cast away. For example, he collected and wrote in bits of paper from margins that were cut and discarded. He would only eat his quota of 2 idlis during the morning meal. If he were asked to taste one, he would take only the remaining one at breakfast. Nothing was ever wasted. Vegetables were used for cooking. Peels were cleaned and ground up into chutney. If inedible, fed to the cattle. He would pick up even a grain of rice from the floor and put it back in its tin. Once, thieves broke into the ashram and, having found nothing much of value, struck Bhagavan on his thigh with sticks. He advised no retaliation. Kripa Purnaya. He gave solace to the heartbroken Echamal by his mere presence. Hrit Shantikara Sanidhyaya. An early Western devotee, Frank Humphreys, rode his motorcycle from Vellore to Tiruvannamalai to see Bhagavan when Bhagavan was still living up in Virupaksha cave. Bhagavan offered fruit, lemonade, or coconut water to suit his spice-sensitive Western palate. Aptaya. Little kids used to sit quietly in front of Bhagavan, as documented by Humphreys. Bhagavan would be silent. They came up the hill, they would sit in his presence and leave, all without having a single word spoken to by Bhagavan. Sadanandaya, Hrit Shantikara Sanidhyaya. Muruganar, Vishwanatha Swami, Sadhu Natanananda, Shivaprakasham Pillai, Ramanatha Brahmachari, Kirei Patti, Osborne, Humphreys, and many devotees had the fortune of being physically in his presence. Sat Bhakta Vrinda Parivritaya. Ganapati Muni was like a bee hovering over the lotus feet of Bhagavan. Ganesha Muni Bringena Sevitangri Saroruhaya. Mother Alagama was liberated in his presence. This was validated by Bhagavan himself. Matra Mukti Vidayakaya. Despite being invited by her daughter to stay with her in a comfortable house, she would not go, refusing to leave Sri Bhagavan's side. She said that she would leave the earth only in Sri Bhagavan's presence. It did not matter even if her body were to be thrown into the thorny bushes after her death. She was brought down the hill to be buried. A jewel of a temple marks the place today. As Sri Matru Bhuteshwara, she pours her grace upon the devotees. We see Bhagavan saying Santosham, thank you, to Satyanandam, his attendant, for all his help taking care of him on his last day on earth. Mridubhashine Dayarnavaya. Besides all this, underlying everything is Bhagavan the Jnani. Bhagavan always reminded people to attend to the reason they came to the ashram. Harda Vidya Prakashakaya. Whatever religion, country, or place they came from, devotees adored him. Sarva Vanimata Sthanam Aradhyaya. He would initiate visitors into the inquiry of the self just by being in his presence or by a mere look from him. Rejumarga Pradarshakaya. There was never any distinction. He was the king among many saints and sages who came to pay their respects to him. Munindraya Namah. The visitor who called himself a sinner and who was absolved of all his sins by the sight and directive of Bhagavan. Darshanad Aghasamharine. He transmitted the knowledge of the self through silence. Maunena Swatma Bodhakaya. The very thought of Bhagavan liberates us from samsara. Smaranad Bandhamochakaya. Destroyer of the inner darkness of ignorance. Anthastimira Chandam Shave. He is our helmsman as we traverse the ocean of life. samsararnava tarakaya. Bhagavan arrived in Tiruvannamalai and because of divine ordinance remained there in the physical body to radiate grace for the next 5 decades. Who is he? He is present in our innermost heart. He is the I in us. There is no place where he is not. Guhaya. If we consider that he is the body, it is of no use for us. He would be one among those who lived and died. He has said that he is here and now, and we have only to turn within. He therefore is immortal. Amartyaya. To conclude, Shivam prapadhye, Shivadam prapadhye, Gurum prapadhye, Guninam prapadhye, Madhya hrit padmajusham prapadhye, Sharanyamisham sharanam prapadhye. This is a last verse from Prapati Ashtakam composed by Jagadisha Shastri. To Shiva, the bestower of bliss, the master, the store of all virtues, I surrender. To the indweller of my heart lotus, I surrender. To the refuge and Lord, I surrender. Muruganar says, Vittaga, unai naan marekkinum, na chollum undan namame. O Lord, that even if I forget you, let the tongue chant thy name. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.
With this, DC area Satsang concludes its offerings for our Guru Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi. We now hand it over to Toronto, Canada.